Thank you for being here. Somewhere in a mountain storm, an old radio begins to carry a voice that should not be able to reach Earth. It is weak, frightened, and asking one question. Is anyone still listening? Now step into the story. Mae Turner knew a dying radio by its smell. Not the sound, not at first. Sound came later, after the case was open and the old parts had shown whether they could live one more season. The smell came first. Warm dust, burned plastic, damp copper. A little bite of old battery acid if the owner had kept it too long in a shed. The radio on Mae's workbench smelled like all of those things. It belonged to Mrs. Bell from the lower road, who had paid with 2 jars of peaches and a promise to bring firewood when the rain stopped. The radio was older than most of the cars in the valley. Its plastic face was cracked across the tuning window. One knob was missing, so Mae had fitted a bottle cap over the metal stem and tightened it with a strip of cloth. Outside the workshop, the mountain storm came down hard enough to rattle the tin roof. Rain ran in silver lines over the one small window. Wind shoved at the door and made the hanging tools clink against one another like nervous teeth. Inside, Mae worked under a yellow lamp that flickered whenever the house pulled too much power. Her workshop was also her kitchen, her front room, and on bad nights, her whole world. Shelves leaned under the weight of broken handsets, battery packs, rescue beacons, old television antennas, and coffee cans full of screws. A wood stove gave more smoke than heat. Beside the stove, a narrow hallway led to the back room, where her younger brother Eli was sleeping with an air filter coughing beside his bed. The filter was an ugly square machine with a cracked vent and a motor Mae had already rebuilt twice. On cold, wet nights, Eli needed it. The damp got into his lungs and stayed there like a fist. Mae glanced at the little meter she had wired above the workbench. The reserve battery was holding, but only just. "Come on," she whispered to the radio. "One more job." She touched the soldering iron to a loose joint. The old set gave a soft pop. The speaker coughed, hissed, then filled the room with storm noise. Mae smiled a little. "There you are." She turned the bottle cap knob slowly. Static rose and fell. A weather station came in for half a second, then slid away. A country song from across the county drifted through the storm, thin and warped. Mae tuned past it. Mrs. Bell only cared about the emergency band, but Mae always checked the shortwave bands too. Habit, curiosity, maybe loneliness. When you lived on a mountain road where half the houses were patched with tarps and most people still kept candles beside the sink, a working radio was not a hobby. It was a door. Mae had grown up with that truth. Her father had been a volunteer storm spotter before the landslide took him. He used to say a voice on the right frequency could be the difference between a cold night and a funeral. Mae had been 12 when she first learned how to hear words through static. She was 36 now, and listening was still how she made a living. The speaker hissed. Then something moved underneath it. Mae froze. It was not a word. Not yet. It was a shape inside the sound, a pressure, like someone pressing a hand to the other side of a wall. She leaned closer. The sound vanished. Mae turned the knob back a hair. Static. Wind. A far station in Spanish. Static again. Then a breath. Not from the room, from the speaker. Mae's fingers went still. The breath came again, followed by a broken thread of voice. It was so thin that the rain almost swallowed it. Outside. Mae looked toward the back room. Eli did not stir. She reached for the recorder she kept beside the bench. It was an old digital unit with one working button and tape around the battery cover. She clicked it on. The radio hissed for another 10 seconds. Then the voice came back. "Please. Not rescue. Answer." Mae's mouth went dry. She had heard strange things on storm nights. Skip from stations too far away. Military exercises. Ship traffic bouncing off the ionosphere. Old signals trapped in weather and distance. She had heard a preacher from Montana come out of a toaster once after lightning hit a line. But this voice did not ride the storm like Earth signals did. It sounded folded and bent, as if it had crossed something wider than weather. Mae turned the knob a fraction. The voice slipped away. She turned it back. Static. Breath. A crackle like ice breaking. Then clearer. "Is anyone outside still listening?" Mae did not answer. She stared at the radio as if it had grown eyes. The voice was female. Tired. Young, maybe, though Mae could not tell if that meant anything. The words were English, but the rhythm was wrong, as if something were translating them while drowning. Mae reached for the microphone on her bench. It was connected to a little test transmitter she used for local repairs. It had no business reaching anything beyond the valley. She picked it up anyway. "This is Mae Turner," she said, keeping her voice low. "You are coming in broken, ye Blakes. Identify your station." The storm answered first. Then the voice returned, weaker. "Seyra, Veyr-Sol, please, confirm, we are still alive." Mae's skin prickled all the way to her wrists. Veyr-Sol was not a town, not a county, not anything on Earth that Mae knew. She swallowed. "Seyra, I hear you," she said. There was a silence on the other end, so deep it felt like the whole mountain stopped listening. Then the speaker gave a sound that might have been a sob, or might have been the signal breaking apart. "They are counting our silence as consent." The lamp flickered hard. The radio squealed. The voice vanished into static. Mae stayed frozen with the microphone in her hand. Behind her, Eli coughed from the back room. The air filter hummed on, weak but steady. Rain hammered the roof. Mae looked at the radio, at the recorder, at the thin green line on the battery meter. Then she turned the tuning knob back one hair and began to listen. By morning, Mae had replayed the recording 12 times. She did not sleep. She made coffee so strong it tasted like burned wire. She wrote down every word she could hear in a spiral notebook stained with solder smoke. Seyra, Veyr-Sol, confirm, alive, silence, consent. The words sat on the page like pieces of a machine she did not yet know how to build. Eli found her at dawn, barefoot in the doorway, one hand on the wall as if he had come there carefully. "You look like the radio beat you," he said. Mae looked up. Eli was 22, too thin, with dark hair stuck to his forehead and a blanket around his shoulders. His breathing had that shallow sound she hated. "How's your chest?" "Still attached." His eyes went to the open radio. "What happened?" Mae almost said nothing. She almost told him it was a bad ground, a weird bounce, an old satellite. Anything ordinary. Instead, she played the recording. Eli listened with his head tilted, his face changing from sleepy irritation to unease. When the voice said, "Confirm, we are still alive," he looked at Mae. "That's not local." "No." "Is it one of the outer relay bands?" "No." "Then what is it?" Mae rubbed her eyes. "I don't know yet." Eli heard the last line. "They are counting our silence as consent." When the static swallowed it, he said nothing for a while. Then he looked at the battery meter. "You kept the whole bench running all night?" "I had to catch the pattern." "You had to?" "Yes." "Mae, I know. You know the reserve dropped below 30. I know." He leaned against the doorframe. "If the weather gets colder tonight, that filter may need more than that." Mae closed the notebook. "I'll charge the reserve off the truck battery." "The truck battery barely starts the truck." "I'll make it work." Eli stared at her. He knew that tone. It was the one she used when a bridge washed out or a neighbor's beacon failed in a storm. It meant she had already decided the problem belonged to her. "Tell me you are not about to start talking to space with junk from the shed." Mae did not answer fast enough. Eli shut his eyes. "Mae, if someone was calling from the North Ridge in a blizzard and nobody else heard them, would you tell me to turn the radio off? That's the North Ridge. To them, we may be the North Ridge." He did not laugh. By noon, the rain had slowed, and Mae climbed to the hill above the house with a coil of copper wire over one shoulder and a metal pipe under one arm. The hill was steep, slick with mud, and scattered with broken fence posts. From the top, she could see the valley below, patched with trailers, barns, leaning porches, and smoke from wood stoves. Cell service died up here on clear days. In storms, the whole place belonged to radios. Mae drove the pipe into wet ground beside an old cedar stump. She strung wire from the pipe to a dead oak, then to the corner of the shed roof. It was not elegant, and it was not safe enough, but it gave her height, direction, and a chance. Ben Pike saw her from the road and stopped his dented pickup. Ben was 70 if he was a day, with a beard like steel wool and a limp from a flood rescue that had gone bad 20 years earlier. He had taught half the valley how to call for help when phones failed. He got out and squinted up through the drizzle. "You trying to talk to heaven, Mae?" "Something like that." "Need a hand?" Mae almost refused. Then the pipe shifted in the mud and nearly took her shin off. "Hold this." Ben climbed slower than he used to, but he held the pipe steady while she tightened the wire. "What are we catching?" "Not sure yet." "That is not an answer. It's the only honest one." Ben gave her a long look but did not press. He had known her father. That made him patient with Turners and suspicious of silence. Back inside, Mae connected the hill antenna to her receiver through a homemade filter. She cut power to everything she could spare. The refrigerator, the porch light, the spare heater. Eli watched her do it with his arms folded. "If this burns out the bench, we cannot replace it," he said. "It won't." "You said that before the toaster incident. That toaster was poorly designed. That it caught fire because you made it receive a fire department channel. It did receive it." Eli wanted to stay angry. He failed. For a second, the old humor warmed the room. Then the radio hissed. Mae lifted a hand. The signal came at 9:17 that night, buried under a hard mechanical buzz that had not been there before. Mae adjusted the filter. The buzz shifted, as if something on the other end noticed. "Seyra," Mae said into the microphone. "This is Mae Turner. I hear you. Try again. Long static. Then faint. Mae, Earth?" Mae gripped the microphone. "Yes, Earth." Another silence. Then a different sound came through, small and sharp. A child coughing. Sarah's voice came back quickly, as if she had covered the microphone too late. "Do not use much power," she said. "It sees power." "What sees power?" "The listening grid." Mae wrote it down. "Who is listening?" "Orvanta." The name came through clearly enough to make Mae look up. Seyra spoke in short pieces. The translator, if that was what carried her words, broke often. Mae learned to wait. A sentence came in fragments, each one surrounded by static. Veyr-Sol was a poor mining world at the edge of a trade lane Mae had never heard of. Orvanta Dominion controlled the shipping gates, the medical shipments, and the public transmitters. Veyr-Sol had water under its stone and rare minerals beneath old villages. Orvanta wanted a full extraction treaty. To get it, they needed proof that the registered communities had not objected. "They took the public towers," Seyra said. "They said it was for safety. Then they cut the cargo, then the medicine, then the heat cells. They say no answer means yes." Mae heard another voice in the background, older, weak. "Your mother?" Mae asked. Seyra went quiet. "Yes." "Is she sick?" "Many are sick." There was a rustle. Then Seyra said with a steadiness that made Mae sit straighter, "We are not asking Earth to carry us. We are asking Earth to hear that we did not agree." Mae looked at her own hands, rough with burns, nails dark with machine oil. "What do you have?" "The living consent record." The phrase came through awkwardly, but the meaning landed hard. Seyra explained it in pieces. Before Orvanta took the towers, families across the poor mining villages had recorded short statements. Names, villages, proof they were alive, proof they refused the extraction treaty. Seyra's father had helped collect the files. He vanished after the last tower went dark. The record was hidden inside the village transmitter. It could be opened only by a sound key, a sequence Seyra's father had disguised inside an old lullaby. But the record was incomplete. The last confirmations were still in a sealed section of the lower mine. "Why not send what you have?" Mae asked. "Because they will say it is old. They will say those villages are gone." "Are they?" A pause. "Some." Mae closed her eyes. Seyra continued, "But not all. If I bring the last voices, they cannot call it silence." The mechanical buzz rose suddenly. The signal bent. "Mae," Seyra said, her voice tightening, "they are sweeping." "What does that mean?" "If I speak too long, they find the heat of the transmitter." "Then stop." "No. Listen." The static thinned for 3 seconds. A child's voice came through, close to Seyra's microphone. "Does outside have rain?" Mae stopped breathing. Seyra whispered something in her own language, soft and quick. Then, to Mae, "My brother, Nalo." Mae looked at the window. Rain moved down the glass in dark lines. "Yes," Mae said. "Outside has rain." The child breathed into the signal. "Then outside is real." The transmission cut. Mae sat in the workshop with the microphone in her hand until the lamp flickered again. Eli stood behind her. He had heard all of it. "Mae," he said quietly, "what did we just become part of?" She looked at the radio. "A door," she said. The next morning, Mae tried the official way. She drove 30 miles down the mountain in an old pickup that started on the 4th try and had no working heat. The nearest Earth Communications field office sat in a low concrete building behind the county airport. It had a clean lobby, a coffee machine, and a sign that asked visitors to report unauthorized off-world contact. Mae wore her best jacket. It still smelled faintly of solder. A young man behind a glass window listened to 10 seconds of her recording with the expression of someone waiting for lunch. Your equipment is unlicensed for interstellar relay, he said. It's not a relay, it's reception. With response attempts. Because someone answered me. He looked at the cracked recorder in her hand. Ma'am, we get a lot of anomalous signal reports after storms. This is not a storm echo. Did you run spectrum verification through an approved grid? No. I ran it through equipment I built because there is no approved grid on my mountain. He gave her a polite smile that made her want to break his glass window. Then we cannot certify the origin. Mae leaned closer. A blocked colony is being forced into an extraction treaty. I have a voice from Veyr-Sol saying their silence is being counted as consent. At the word treaty, his face changed, not into concern, but caution. Veyr-Sol is under Orvanta administrative communication, he said. Earth has no standing in that region. Earth has ears. Please lower your voice. A girl is calling from a dying transmitter. Ma'am, if you continue responding to restricted signals, you may create a diplomatic incident. Mae stared at him. Someone is being erased, she said. I am saying you should stop transmitting until your material is reviewed. By whom? I can file a report. How long? His eyes slid away. Several weeks. Mae laughed once, not because it was funny. They may have less than 2 days. He pushed a paper through the slot. Fill this out. Mae left without the paper. On the drive home, the sky was the color of wet ash. Mae kept one hand on the wheel and the other on the recorder in her pocket slack, as if it might vanish. At the workshop, a message was waiting on her receiver. It was not Seyra. The voice was smooth, warm, and close, with none of the broken edges of distance. Mae Turner of Earth, your unauthorized contact with Veyr-Sol has been noted. You are receiving manipulated material from an internal labor dispute. Continued transmission may expose you to civil penalty. Orvanta Dominion offers correction, compensation, and technical assistance if you surrender all recordings within 12 Earth hours. Mae stood very still. The voice continued. We understand your household requires medical filtration equipment. We can provide a certified unit, full debt settlement, and structural repair for your residents. You have been misled by desperate actors. Do not let them harm your family. The message ended. Eli sat by the stove with a blanket over his knees. His face had gone pale. They know about me, he said. Mae ejected the tape and set it on the bench. Yes. They can fix the filter? Mae did not answer. They can fix the roof? That is what they said. And pay the debt? Yes. Eli looked at the ceiling, where a drop of water gathered, fattened, and fell into a pot. For a recording. For silence. He turned toward her. You always make it sound simple. Mae sat across from him. It is not simple. I know. His voice cracked, and he hated that it did. I know you want to help her. I heard him, the little boy. But Mae, we are not all right either. The words landed harder because they were true. They were not all right. The roof leaked. The truck barely ran. Eli's medicine cost too much. Mae had 3 overdue bills folded under a magnet on the refrigerator. Her hands shook in winter from old burns and bad circulation, and there were nights when she wondered how many more broken machines she could fix before her own life became one. Orvanta had not guessed wrong. They had aimed perfectly. Mae looked at the radio. Then she played Seyra's recording again. The child's voice came through faintly. Does outside have rain? Eli closed his eyes. Mae stopped the tape. I will not decide for you, she said. If you tell me to stop, I will hear you. Eli laughed softly, bitterly. That is unfair. Yes, because if I tell you to stop, then every time that machine runs, I will hear him ask if outside is real. Mae said nothing. Eli pulled the blanket tighter. I am scared. So am I. Then do not act like you are not. Mae reached across and took his hand. It was cold. I am scared, she said again. But I keep thinking, if Dad had called from under that ridge and someone heard him, I would want them to answer even if their roof leaked. Eli looked away. After a while, he said, Do not burn the house down. I will try not comforting. It is honest. He gave her a tired half smile. Then build your space door. Mae worked until her back screamed. She did not build 1 door. She built 3. The first line was the listening channel, tuned to Seyra's broken path through the artificial buzz. The second was a clean recorder, isolated from the transmitter by a stack of parts she had taken from old emergency beacons. The third was bait. Bait was not a technical term, but Mae liked it. She wired a second transmitter to spit bursts of false noise on a nearby band. If Orvanta's sweepers were tracking power spikes, she wanted to give them a squirrel to chase. Ben Pike arrived near dusk with a toolbox, a thermos, and the expression of a man who had already decided he was involved. "Eli called," he said. Mae looked toward the back room. "Did he? Said you were doing something stupid but not wrong." "That sounds like him." Ben set the toolbox down. "Play me the ghost." Mae did. He listened without interrupting. Then he asked to hear it again. On the third play, he closed his eyes. "That is not Skip. No, not military. No, somebody is stepping on it." "Yes." Ben opened his eyes. "Then we need another receiver." "You believe me?" "I believe the signal. You I tolerate." Relief hit so hard she almost laughed. Ben brought in a field receiver from his truck, a battered green box he had used in flood season for decades. They set it by the stove, tuned it by hand, and waited. Seyra came through at 10:43 that night. Her voice was breathless. "Mae, I went below." Mae leaned over the microphone. "Are you safe?" "No." Behind Seyra, there were echoes, not the close echo of a room, but the long, hollow sound of tunnels. "I found 3 families in the lower mine. They thought no outside still existed." "Do you have their statements?" "Some." The signal crackled. A different voice came through, old and rough. "My name is Tovan of Lower Neril. My house is still occupied. My wife is alive. We do not consent." Static swallowed him. Another voice, a woman, speaking while a child cried behind her. "My name is Mira of the South Pump Rooms. They marked us empty. We are not empty. We do not consent." Mae looked at Ben. His jaw was tight. Seyra came back. "There is one more section. Old miners, no voice. They tap." "Tap what?" "Pipes, code from before towers." Mae understood before the translator finished. "Can you record it?" "I can try." The signal wavered. Then came a sound that was not speech. Metal taps, faint but deliberate. 3, pause. 1, pause. 2, a pattern. Mae grabbed her pencil. "Again," she said. The taps repeated. Ben leaned over the notebook. "That is a rescue rhythm." "Not ours." "No, but rhythm is rhythm." For the next 20 minutes, Mae and Ben listened while Seyra held her microphone against a pipe inside a mine on another world. The old miners tapped through metal because their lungs could not carry words. Seyra translated in pieces. "Alive. Lower shaft. Refuse treaty. Water belongs to children. Do not erase." Mae wrote until her hand cramped. Then the smooth Orvanta voice cut across the frequency. "This material is fraudulent." Ben swore under his breath. The voice continued, louder. "Mae Turner, continued rebroadcast of fabricated dissent will be treated as malicious interference." Seyra's signal dropped. Mae moved fast. She switched to the bait line and sent a burst of junk noise. The Orvanta interference followed it for half a second. "Got you," Mae whispered. Seyra returned, barely audible. "They are closer." "Go silent," Mae said. "We have this part." "No," Seyra said. "Not enough. Dawn after next. Treaty. Seyra, if they find you tonight, there is no tomorrow." Silence. Then Seyra said, "If I stop tonight, tomorrow belongs to them anyway." Mae had no answer. The next day, the valley turned against her and toward her at the same time. Someone from the communications office had called the county. Someone from the county called the sheriff. Someone from the sheriff's office called Mae and told her an inspector might come to look at her equipment if there were further complaints about unauthorized transmission. By noon, 2 neighbors had called to ask if she was bringing trouble onto the mountain. By afternoon, a woman whose husband worked for a satellite contractor posted online that Mae was faking alien voices for donations. Before evening, Mrs. Bell came to the door with a bag of old batteries. "I do not know what you are doing," she said, "but Ben says it matters. It may get messy." Mrs. Bell looked at the leaks in the ceiling, the radio parts, Eli's filter, and Mae's face. "Honey, it is already messy." She handed over the batteries. People came after that in 1s and 2s. Not many, not a crowd. A boy from the next ridge brought a coil of television cable. A mechanic brought 2 half-dead car batteries. A nurse from the clinic brought a portable oxygen canister for Eli and said she never saw where it went. Ben brought an old antenna mast lashed to the roof of his truck. No one made speeches. They were mountain people. Most had been helped by a radio at least once, or knew someone who had. Mae did not tell them the whole story. She did not have to. She played a few seconds of the child asking if outside had rain. That was enough. That evening, another Orvanta message came in. This one used Seyra's voice. "Mae," it said, broken and soft. "Stop. They lied to you. I am safe. Send the records to Orvanta. They will help us. Mae's stomach turned. Eli, Ben, and Mae stood around the receiver. The voice was almost perfect. Almost. Mae closed her eyes. What is wrong with it? Ben asked. Too clean, Mae said. What? There is no pump whine, no heat flutter, and she said Mae too fast. Eli frowned. Too fast? Seyra always waits before my name. The translator catches on it. The false voice continued. Please, Mae, trust them. Mae switched the bait line on. The false signal strengthened, reaching for the active path. She let it come. Then she cut the bait, dropped the frequency lower, and sent 3 short pulses on the true listening channel. A minute passed. 2. Then the real Seyra answered with a whisper full of tunnel echo and fear. You knew. I knew. How? You never say my name that way. There was a small sound from Seyra, not laughter exactly, but close. It broke Mae's heart more than crying would have. I am in the old pump room, Seyra said. I have the last section. Can you get back? No. Mae gripped the edge of the bench. What do you mean, no? Patrols above, grid below. I can send from here, but heat will show. How long? Maybe minutes. Maybe less if I open full record. Ben looked at Mae. Mae looked at the battery meter. The reserve was low. Too low. Outside, the second storm began to roll over the ridge. Thunder moved under the mountains like something waking. The treaty would be signed at dawn. Mae had spent all day trying to reach any Earth channel that would listen. Most ignored her. One warned her again to stop. One operator, voice low and nervous, admitted that signals from Veyr-Sol were being discussed but not yet certified. Not yet certified, Mae repeated into the phone. I am sorry, the operator said. People are not alive only after paperwork says so. The operator went silent. Then she said softly, if you can get a clean public transmission, others can log it. Civilian logs are harder to bury. How many others? As many as can hear it. The line clicked dead. So that was the path. Not permission, not a rescue order, not a fleet. Just ears. Mae stood in her workshop while rain began to strike the roof again. Around her were the pieces of every poor person's machine she had ever kept alive. Old radios, bent wire, car batteries, a cracked microphone, Ben's field receiver. Mrs. Bell's radio, still open on the bench, cut its cracked speaker working better than it had any right to. Mae began wiring them together. Eli sat in the back room with the portable oxygen canister by his chair, watching the reserve meter drop. How bad? He asked. Mae did not pretend. Bad. If you use the big battery, the filter goes off unless Ben's battery holds. Ben looked at his battery, then at the storm. It will hold some. Some is not a number, Eli said. No, Ben said, but it is what we have. The wind hit the house so hard the walls shuddered. Seyra's voice cracked through. Mae, they are at the upper gate. Can you open the record? Yes. Can you move after? A pause. No. Mae shut her eyes. Seyra continued. Mae, if I send names, they will know where. I know. My mother is there. I know. My brother. Mae looked at Eli. He was watching her, pale and breathing through his mouth. I know, Mae said. Seyra's next words came quietly. Do you still say send? Mae could not answer for a moment. The room seemed to hold every hard bargain ever offered to someone with no power. Trade your water for work. Trade your voice for heat. Trade your name for safety. Trade someone far away for someone you love. Mae thought of Orvanta's offer. A sealed roof, a clean filter, debt gone. Eli breathing easy. She thought of Nalo asking if outside was real. Then Eli said from the doorway, tell her yes. Mae turned. He was standing with one hand on the frame, the portable canister strapped across his chest. His face was white, but his voice was steady. Use the battery, he said. No, Mo. No. You asked me before. I am telling you now. Ben looked away, giving them the only privacy he could. Eli took a breath that rasped. If you save my air by letting them steal a whole sky, I will hear that every time I breathe. Mae's eyes burned. You are my brother, and you are my sister. So listen to me. He moved closer, slow but determined. I do not want to live in a house bought with that boy's silence. Mae wanted to argue. She wanted to be selfish. She wanted one night where the right thing did not ask for the thing she could least afford. Instead, she nodded once. Ben, she said, her voice rough. Get the truck battery. The storm tore across the hill. Mae climbed with the cable wrapped around her shoulder and rain striking her face hard enough to sting. Ben came behind her with the truck battery in both arms, cursing every step. 2 neighbors held flashlights below, the beams shaking in the wind. Eli stayed inside by the receiver. tied to the portable oxygen canister, ready to call readings through the open window. The antenna mast had fallen halfway down the slope. Mae dragged it upright. Mud sucked at her boots. Lightning flashed beyond the ridge, bright enough to show the whole valley for one white second. "Mae?" Eli's voice came through the handheld clip to her belt. "Seyra is fading." Mae jammed the mast against the cedar stump. "Tell her to hold. She says the patrol is at the pump room door." Mae's hands moved faster. The wire had snapped near the insulator. She stripped it with her teeth, spat out the copper taste, and twisted the ends together. The connection sparked when Ben clipped the battery line. Mae hissed as heat burned her fingers. "Bad?" Ben shouted. The bait transmitter inside began to pulse. Mae heard it through the handheld, a low rhythmic tick. She had designed it to look louder than the true signal, hotter, easier to follow. If Orvanta's sweepers were hunting the strongest source on Veyr-Sol's return path, Mae wanted them chasing a ghost. "Open the public band," Mae told Eli. "Already open." "Start recording clean." "Recording." "Ben, hold the mast. If lightning hits, I am haunting you." "Stand in line." Mae grabbed the microphone. Rain ran down her sleeve into the casing. "Seyra, this is Mae. Do you hear me?" Static. A crash of thunder. Then Seyra, faint and close to breaking. "I hear." "Do not beg," Mae said. "Say their names." For a moment, there was only storm and static, Earth and Veyr-Sol roaring over one another. Then Seyra sang. It was not a song Mae knew. It was a line of tones, soft and shaking, too simple to be performance and too old to be code by accident. It was a lullaby. Her father's key. Somewhere under another sky, in a pump room surrounded by patrols, the last transmitter in a poor village opened its hidden memory. The first voice was Seyra's. "My name is Seyra of Lokeld. My mother is alive. My brother Nalo is alive. We do not consent." The signal buckled. Mae adjusted the gain. A second voice came, older, thin with fever. "My name is Laren of Lokeld. I was marked relocated. I was not relocated. I am in my home. I do not consent." A child's voice. "My name is Nalo. I am alive. I do not know why they say we are not here." Mae heard Eli make a sound through the handheld. More voices followed. Not clean, not dramatic, real. A miner tapping through pipe translated by Seyra between bursts of static. "Lower shaft alive. Water is not sold. Children are not sold. We do not consent." A woman from the south pump rooms. "They cut medicine and asked why we did not answer. We answer now." A man who had to stop 3 times to cough. "Our village is not empty." The Orvanta interference slammed into the band. "This transmission is fabricated," the smooth voice declared. "Cease relay immediately." Mae switched the bait line higher. The interference followed, tearing at the false signal. The true line cleared for 4 seconds. "Keep going," Mae whispered. Seyra did. The names came like stones placed one by one against a door. Lokeld, South Pump, Lower Neril, Ash Basin, Red Well, Old Slope, East Lantern. Mae did not know those places. By dawn, she would not forget them. Inside the house, Eli took the clean feed and pushed it to Ben's field receiver. Ben's receiver pushed it to Mrs. Bell's repaired radio. Mrs. Bell, down the road, had been waiting by her kitchen table with the set turned up and her hands folded. When the voices came through, she lifted her phone and called her sister 2 valleys over. "Turn on your set," she said. "Now." The sister called a cousin who ran a truck stop. The truck stop had an old emergency receiver for snow closures. A driver heard the alien child's voice while filling his coffee. He knew a radio hobbyist in Ohio. The hobbyist knew 20 more. The signal did not spread like a government order. It spread like people leaning out of doorways to say, "Listen to this." Mae did not know any of that yet. On the hill, she only knew the mast was shaking. Her hands were burning, and Seyra's voice was getting thinner. "Mae," Eli said through the handheld, "more stations are logging. I am seeing returns." "How many?" "I do not know. More than us." The Orvanta voice returned, no longer smooth. "Mae Turner, this action endangers protected administrative proceedings. You will be held liable." Mae looked down through the rain at the dim shape of her house, her leaking roof, her dying workshop, and her brother breathing on borrowed air. She lifted the microphone. "This is Mae Turner of Earth," she said. "I am receiving live civilian testimony from Veyr-Sol. I am not the source. I am not the owner of these voices. I am keeping the line open." Ben stared at her. Then he smiled. The next burst of interference hit so hard that the receiver screamed. Sparks jumped from the junction box. The workshop lights below went dark. "Eli?" Mae shouted into the handheld. "No answer." Eli! Static. Mae started down the hill. Then the handheld crackled. I'm here. Eli's voice was weak, but there. House power is out. Recorder is still running on backup. The filter? Off. Mae's blood went cold. Go to Ben's battery. Already did. It is low. Mae looked at the mast. The public band was still live. Seyra was still reading names. For half a second, Mae saw the choice open again, cruel as a blade. Then a pair of headlights turned into her driveway. Another truck followed. Then another. Mrs. Bell came through the rain carrying a battery pack against her chest. The nurse from the clinic followed with a second oxygen canister. A mechanic ran behind them with jumper cables. People Mae had fixed machines for, argued with, traded with, and barely known came into her yard with the pieces of power they had. Ben saw them and shouted down, "Back room! Get to Eli!" Mae held the mast and cried without making a sound. The line stayed open. Far away, Sarah's voice faltered. "Last file," she said. Mae steadied herself. "Send it." There was a burst of noise, a scrape, and a distant pounding that might have been a door opening. Seyra spoke fast now. This record is carried by the living villages of Veyr-Sol. If heard outside Orvanta control, let it prove that silence was forced. Let it prove that hunger is not consent. Let it prove that a blocked voice is not an empty world. Then came a final series of voices, overlapping, scared, alive. We are here. We do not consent. We are here. Do not erase us. We are here. The signal tore open into static. Seyra! Mae shouted. Nothing. Seyra! The rain hit the microphone. Then, so faint Mae almost missed it, a child's voice came through. Outside heard? Mae closed her eyes. Yes, Mae said. Outside heard. The signal died. Dawn came gray and exhausted. Mae's workshop looked like it had been dragged through a river and set on fire. One bench was blackened. The wall above the transmitter was scorched. 3 radios had burned out completely. The floor was a mess of mud, wire, wet coats, and dead batteries. Eli slept in the back room with a borrowed oxygen canister beside him and Mrs. Bell in a chair by the door. Ben sat on the floor with his back against the stove, holding a mug he had not drunk from. Mae sat at the bench, wrapped in a blanket, both hands bandaged by the nurse. She had not moved for an hour. The recorder was still there. So were the logs, not just hers. They came in slowly at first. A message from Ohio, then Montana, then Maine. Then a station in Alaska that had caught the last 12 minutes clean. Then a night nurse in Oregon who had recorded the child asking if outside heard. Then a school radio club in Kansas that had copied the list of village names. By mid-morning, Earth Communications called, not the young man at the glass window. A woman with a tired voice and no patience for polite lies. Miss Turner, this is Director Helen Marsh with Earth Communications Civil Relay. Mae looked at the receiver as if it might bite. I am here. We have received verified civilian logs from multiple independent stations. Good. There is pressure from Orvanta Dominion to classify the material as interference. Mae's hand tightened around the blanket. The director continued. That classification is not being accepted. Mae did not trust herself to speak. We are opening a humanitarian communication channel for Veyr-Sol. We are requesting neutral medical transit and independent signal access. The extraction treaty has been suspended pending verification of live descent. Ben opened his eyes. Mae whispered, Suspended. Yes. Not stopped. Not yet. Mae shut her eyes. Director Marsh's voice softened just a little. Miss Turner, what you did was unauthorized, dangerous, and may still create legal complications. Mae almost laughed. Are you calling to arrest me? No, I'm calling to ask for your clean copy of the living consent record. Mae looked at the burned recorder. It belongs to them, she said. Understood. No, Mae said, stronger. Say that in the request. It belongs to the people of Veyr-Sol. Earth is holding a copy because they asked to be heard. There was a pause. Then Director Marsh said, Agreed. Mae looked at Ben. He nodded. She connected the recorder. The transfer took 11 minutes. During those 11 minutes, no one in the room spoke. When it finished, Mae sat back and listened to the rain soften on the roof. What happens now? Eli asked from the doorway. Mae turned. He was awake, pale but breathing easier. We kept the line open, she said. Now Earth has to decide what kind of planet it is. Eli gave a small smile. I think some people already decided. Later that afternoon, Director Marsh sent the first public notice over the civil relay band. Mae heard it through a receiver whose side panel was still missing. The notice did not sound heroic. It sounded careful. It said Earth had received independent live testimony from Veyr-Sol. It said civilian stations had logged the same transmission from different locations. It said the material would be preserved under humanitarian evidence protection until the people of Veyr-Sol could speak without Orvanta filtering their words. Mae listened with her elbows on the bench. Ben made a face. That is the driest way anyone has ever said a whole world is alive. It is enough for now, Mae said, but enough did not mean easy. Within an hour, Orvanta answered on a formal channel. Their representative did not shout. He did not sound cruel. He sounded offended, as if hunger were a clerical mistake and dead transmitters were a scheduling issue. He claimed Veyr-Sol's poor districts had suffered from localized infrastructure gaps. He claimed the extraction treaty would bring jobs, roads, clinics, and stability. He claimed Earth had been manipulated by illegal miners trying to avoid lawful development. Mae heard all of it while stripping a melted wire. At the word development, she looked at the blackened recorder on her bench. She thought of Seyra turning off heat so the transmitter could live another minute. She thought of miners tapping through pipes because breath had become too expensive. She thought of Nalo asking whether rain was real. Development, Ben muttered. Mae kept working. That is what powerful people call taking the floor from under someone and offering to sell them a ladder. Ely, wrapped in a blanket near the stove, smiled faintly. You should tell Director Marsh that. No, Mae said. She needs clean files more than she needs my temper. So Mae gave Earth what she had always given the Valley in storms: clean lines, clear labels, and no more drama than the emergency required. She copied every fragment into separate files. She marked which voices came through Seyra's transmitter, which came through pipe taps, which were interrupted by Orvanta's interference, and which had been repeated by civilian stations on Earth. It was slow work. It was not glorious, but it mattered. A voice that could not be organized could still be dismissed as noise. Mae would not let them do that twice. The first official broadcast from Veyr-Sol did not come that day, or the next. For 2 days, Mae heard nothing but Earth traffic, relay checks, and distant arguments wrapped in professional language. Orvanta denied everything. Earth demanded access. Neutral med ships waited outside restricted lanes. Civilian radio stations kept replaying the village names at low power, not as a spectacle, but as a guardrail. A reminder that those places were alive when Orvanta called them empty. Mae should have rested. Instead, she repaired what she could. Her hands hurt. Her bench smelled like burned varnish. The roof still leaked. The debt did not vanish. The truck still needed a battery. Doing the right thing had not made life easy. But something in the valley had changed. People came by without making a fuss. A carpenter patched the worst part of the roof and said he owed Mae for a storm beacon from 3 winters ago. The nurse checked Ely. Mrs. Bell brought soup. The mechanic rebuilt the truck battery pack from 2 others and told Mae not to insult him by offering money. Ben helped her set Mrs. Bell's radio back together. Its cracked speaker had carried the first public echo of Veyr-Sol. Mae cleaned the soot from its face with a rag until the crack showed like a scar. On the 3rd evening, as the sky turned pink over the ridge, the radio clicked on by itself. Mae looked up from a coil of wire. Static breathed from the speaker. It was not the old static. It was cleaner, still far away, but no longer buried alive. A voice spoke. Mae Turner of Earth. Mae stood so quickly her chair scraped the floor. Seyra? A pause. Then a breath that might have been a laugh. Yes! Ely came from the back room. Ben stopped in the doorway with a hammer in one hand. Seyra's voice was weak, but it was hers. We are on an Earth-protected channel, she said carefully. A relay team came to the outer station. They brought medicine, small machines, light cells. Mae put a hand over her mouth. Your mother? Breathing easier. Nalo? Another pause. This one was different, shy. He is here. The speaker rustled. Then the child's voice came through, clearer than Mae had ever heard it. Mae Turner? Mae bent toward the radio as if speaking to someone across a table. Yes, Nalo. Is rain loud on Earth? Mae looked at the patched roof, at the bucket still catching one stubborn drip, at the window where the last light shone. Sometimes, she said, sometimes it is very loud. We heard it in your signal, Nalo said. Seyra says that was the sound around the door. Mae did not know what to say. Seyra returned. The villages are not safe yet. Orvanta still argues, but they cannot say we were silent. They cannot say we were empty. The names are outside now. Outside. Mae remembered the first question, the thin voice inside the storm, asking if anyone outside still listened. What do you need? Mae asked. Seyra took a breath. For now, to keep the line open. Mae looked around her ruined workshop, at Ben, who nodded, at Eli, who smiled tiredly, at Mrs. Bell's old radio, cracked, stubborn, and alive. We can do that, Mae said. There was a long quiet over the channel. Not empty, not erased, just quiet enough to hold. Then Seyra said, My brother wants to know the name of the woman who heard us first. Mae leaned close to the burned radio. Tell him my name is Mae Turner, she said, and tell him Earth did not mistake his voice for noise. The speaker hummed softly. From far away, through a channel held open by patched wires, burned hands, borrowed batteries, and people who had decided that a weak voice still counted, more voices answered. They said their names, one by one. Not for proof this time, for mourning. And sometimes the difference between silence and survival is not a fleet, a weapon, or a law written by the powerful. Sometimes it is one tired woman in a leaking workshop, keeping one broken radio alive because a voice in the dark still deserves to be heard. Mae Turner did not save Veyr-Sol because she was rich. She did not save them because she was important. She saved them because when the rest of the galaxy heard noise, she heard people. And Earth answered with her. If this story stayed with you, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who loves emotional science fiction, and subscribe to the channel for more stories about the worlds the galaxy forgot and the humans who refused to forget them. Thank you for listening.